The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
Welcome from the General Assembly in the City of Richmond. I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. And a warm welcome to our guest today, the Majority Leader, Kirk Cox. Welcome, sir.
Woody, always good to be with you. Thank you.
And Delegate Riley Ingram, good to see you again.
Thank you, Woody.
I know you've both been very busy. We're fast approaching next Tuesday, crossover day, which also happens to be Valentine's Day, and I want to hear from both of you how you're going to deal with that. Wow. Start with you, Riley.
Glad you're starting with you.
Well, with Valentine's Day, I always tell my secretary that, you know, she's on her own. And she kind of fusses at me a little bit and keeps on going down, you know, keeps on going.
And I know it is a moment of levity, but it is a serious day because...
It's a big deal down here. If you go down on some of the floors, like the 4th or 5th floor, you'll see Valentine decorations all over the place. But really, seriously, it gives us a chance to really thank a lot of the very special ladies we have at the General Assembly that do works from chief of staffs to delegates to whatever. So it's a fun time that has always been a time-honored tradition down here.
And of course, it's a very special day in terms of all bills having to be over to the other body.
It really is. Frankly, the tougher day for us is the day before, because on crossover day, they're on third reading. You can't debate a bill on third reading. But yeah, that Monday and Tuesday is long. There are a lot of bills. We tell the freshmen especially, really be alert. The voting is very quick. Mark your calendar with how you're going to vote, you know, because, you know, they've never experienced anything like that with the amount of bills they'll deal with.
And Delegate Ingram, have you finished all your work in your committee?
No, sir. In fact, I'm chairman, Woody, of the County, Cities, and Towns Committee, and we still have probably about 25 or so bills that we're going to deal with. But I have two strong subcommittees. I have where a lot of the committees have 4 subcommittees. I have 2 strong subcommittees, and they do, I would say, 85 or 90% of the work. And so on Friday morning, we will finish our docket, and we'll finish on time, and we'll finish up county, cities, and towns. And the thing that really is going to be on Kurt and myself and the other members of appropriation, of course, is putting the budget together and putting that out, and that is going to be a very difficult situation, but we will do it.
So county, cities, towns, appropriations, what other committees are you?
And privileges and elections.
Okay.
Privileges and elections.
You've been very busy this year so far.
We stay busy. And Kurt, I told Kurt, I said, Kurt, I don't know how you do it. I said, because the people are lined up at my door, and I said, I am nowhere near in the position that he's in. I mean, he's the coach. I mean, he's the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee, which is a big job, and then he is the majority leader, which is a tremendous job. And here I am. I'm not the majority leader or anything, and I mean, I'm busy as I can be, and I don't know how Kurt does it, but he does, and does a wonderful job. He really does.
Well, your colleague Dave Toscano was down here earlier, and of course he's hopeful that the agreement you and he reached in terms of getting the budget out on time and on members' desk 48 hours in advance of having to deal with that huge document will come to pass.
We need to get that done. Dave's been very good to deal with. We're both Yankee fans, so he actually brought me a 100-year history of the Yankees the other day, so we have a lot of fun, but that's really crucial. You know, the budget is a long document, and members need time to read it, so that's the theory. We also want to make sure that we've agreed that any items that aren't in both the Senate and the House budget and up in the conference report, those are set aside so everyone can see those. Any non-state agency is basically set out so members can read the document more easily. So that's the goal, and we're going to hit it this year. I'm very confident.
Tell us some of the paramount issues in terms of the governor's initiatives that are included in that budget.
Yeah, the governor has a whole, I mean, obviously he has the first shot at the budget, but I would say let's put them in some quick categories. As far as things like K-12 would go, a lot of his initiatives are on early reading, which I think is absolutely crucial, especially for those, you know, Probably third grade is the one that really I think is essential, and so he put almost $40 million into third grade reading, so that's a very big one in that particular area.
Why is that so important, third grade
reading? Is everything. You know, as a teacher, as a high school teacher of history and government, the kids that I've had that have struggled in the past don't read well. And what you find out is, whether it's a history book or a government book, if they're struggling with that, they struggle with their homework, they struggle with comprehension, it is the key. So if you had to ask me, what do we need to emphasize more than anything, I would say elementary school reading. So I like that emphasis. Because we've been criticized, you know, we've had to cut back on some things in K-12. Give you a quick example. We put a ratio for the first time several years ago on support personnel 4-to-1, and that was controversial. Tough. Saved us a lot of money, about $700 million, but I did think that was prudent because it doesn't directly affect the classroom. K-3 reading directly affects the classroom. But the governor has an interesting school choice bill in that he's had to put $10 million aside in the budget to do, and basically that would mainly aimed at at-risk kids that are really struggling in a public school setting, would allow basically them to get a tax credit to go to a private or you know, another type of school, which I like. I'm a big proponent of public schools, but in those kids that have just not been able to be successful, I think that's a good measure. He's got a lot of economic development. Jobs has always been his big issue. So he's obviously got some initiatives in there. One I really like is an agricultural opportunity fund. A lot of people are familiar with the governor's opportunity fund, but what we found out, a lot of, you know, agriculture is so huge in Virginia, and what we found out is a lot of those projects that we're trying to get to come to Virginia are smaller projects that don't qualify for the governor's opportunity fund. And so this would be just for those types of projects, which I think would really help our ag industry in Virginia. So those are some of the things that are priorities in the governor's budget.
Kirk also mentioned the transportation package.
Yeah,
the governor has an excellent transportation package that we're going to be working on and plus passing and going to the both the House Appropriations and the Senate Finance Committee. And I think that this is something that's needed, that the governor has really taken the initiative to really put forward, and I think that's going to be something that we're going to be passing also.
And some of that requires use of the sales tax for a small amount, but incrementally that's going to increase.
A small portion, and of course the opposite side of that is they're saying that we're taking general funds. But Woody, this is nothing new. We have used general funds. My position is I think that highways and construction for economic development, that is a part of the entire package for government. And we've used general fund money on Route 58. We've used it on other projects before. So taking that small amount is not going to be there. But it's the entire package, I think, that is going to be good for the entire Commonwealth of Virginia.
We'll get back to all those issues, but I wanted to make sure that there's a pet project of yours that we discussed that has to do with cash checking. And I really applaud you for continuing to pursue that issue. Tell us what's happening with it.
What you know,
we say it's like a dog with a bone.
I've been trying to get this little check cashing bill through for the last 3 years, and I have not, but at least I did get a vote on it this time. It was only one person that voted for it, but the rest of them voted against it. But all it simply says is for check cashers, the people that are in the check cashing business, strictly cash checks. You know, this actually happened. Little Johnny comes in to grandmother's house with Joe. And Joe is talking with grandmother, and so her little grandson goes in her back bedroom, pulls the last check out of the checkbook, and writes himself a check for $250, takes it down to the check cashing place, cashes it. They don't call grandma to find out if she okays it or not, like the bank would. The check cashing place charges 5% for cashing that check. And so they put it through the machine just like you do at Dillard's or Macy's or anywhere else. See, we're not talking about any of that. It's just the people that charge a fee for cashing a check that have a license to cash checks. That's all. It's very narrowly drawn. Well, what happens is by the time grandmother gets the bank statement and there's $250 missing, she says, "Oh, what happened?" Well, she doesn't miss the check because it's taken out of the bottom of it. So when she gets her statement, she has no idea who cashed the check. She does know it was cashed at this place, say at 6th and City Point Road in Hopewell or what have you. But the problem is it's gone. And so they don't require any identification. So they have no idea who cashed the check as long as they get their 5%. Now, I'm talking about a completely different thing now, but they also cash illegal people's checks. And I don't have a problem with that. The biggest thing I'm trying to get at is stolen checks. But let's say that you're in the country illegally and you get a payroll check for $800. And you can't go to the bank because you have to have identification, okay, or thumbprint. You're here illegally, you don't want to do that. You go to the check cashing place, you cash your check, they get $40. They get $40. They give the person that's cashing the check $760. They made their $40. It's taken out. They go, All I'm trying to do though is I'm not penalizing anyone. All I'm trying to do, Woody, is get the person. All I want to do is have some type of identification on file for 1 year. That's all. And to either run a copy of the check or the money order, what have you, and keep it on file for a year. And I think that the bill is being misinterpreted. It does not do what all seems to be happening. But Woody, we do have a lot of fun here. Just like Kurt was talking about a minute ago and you were talking about Valentine's. Up on the 4th floor, or the 5th floor, John Cosgrove. John Cosgrove has a regular music system set up there, and he's singing, and all the Valentines are everywhere. But we do. We have a lot of work, but we do have to have some comedy every once in a while, because I think the place will really drive you up the wall.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of singing, I'm sure you're hearing some of your colleagues singing the blues, meaning teachers, relating to the teacher retirement system, and also local school districts complaining about the burdens that they're going to have to face financially.
It's a tough issue. As a teacher myself, one of the things you guard very jealously is VRS, because the salaries, I'm the first person to say, probably are not where they should be. So having a solvent pension system is very important. The problem is teachers have grown much faster than state employees, so they're the biggest pool of employees we have in VRS. And the rates that VRS obviously assigns to teachers are higher. The state does pay about 1/3 of teacher pensions, but localities pay 2/3 because they're really local employees, so it gets fairly complex. And the governor, and I think rightly, wants to say we have got to get rid of this unfunded liability in VRS. So it's basically said, we're going to put a substantial employer contribution forward. And that localities obviously are somewhat hurting under that strain. We're looking at several things to mitigate that somewhat. A very interesting thing, we assume an 8% rate of growth in VRS. Historically, as a state, we've put that down in our budget. We're looking at maybe allowing the localities to assume an 8% growth rate. They can't do that currently. They have to basically take what the actuary says they have to take, which is generally 7%. That's about a $73 million savings for localities if we do that. We think that's prudent. If it's good for us, it should be good for them. We're looking at maybe trying to restore some local aid cuts that have been taken the last few years. We don't think that's very structurally sound. And of course, localities could use that for whatever they want to use it, K-12, et cetera. So we're looking at some things to mitigate, hopefully, some of that impact on localities that won't be perfect, but will make them more whole.
I think the unfunded liability is about $19.9 billion. The governor has proposed infusing the largest increase, $2.2 billion. But I'm sure you have heard from some of your local school districts as well.
Oh, it's no question. It's just like Kurt said, the local government is hurting anyway. It's no question. But the thing of it is we do need to take a good look at this and see where we are going to go, because local government is going to have to pay more of their fair share of this, one way or the other, through either the teachers or local government picking it up. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, Woody, but we're going to have to do something.
And of course, the other part of the formula around reforming the Virginia retirement system is going from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan, or a hybrid.
And the thing that scares the people, Woody, and I do understand this. In other words, I know people right now that worked at the plants there in Hopewell that took some of their 401k money, they took it out and invested themselves, put it in the stock market, what have you. And a lot of these funds have gone to half. They're 3/4 or 50% of the worth that they were, say, 4 years ago. And So this is where, under the Virginia retirement system, they're guaranteed this money, and that's what they're afraid of. Basically is not being able to control their own finances.
And so on a going forward basis, it's probably prudent to potentially at least provide an option for a 401k type of plan, especially for younger employees
Yes.
who like portability.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Any bill that probably passes is prospective. I mean, I think you'll see some type of DC plan pass, but it'll probably be optional, as you say. And you're right. I mean, for a young teacher, I mean, times have changed a little bit. People don't generally stay with the same organization as long. They like the portability. They like the flexibility. So I do think that that's prudent. A lot of people in private business will tell you they long time ago went away from a defined benefit plan just because of the expense. We do have to consider somewhat the defined benefit fund if we go to an optional as far as that the liability in that fund. And you can put a surcharge. There's certain things you can do to make that fund whole. We're looking at those types of things because we're sensitive to that. But we are going to have to move forward.
I noticed in terms of the Agricultural Opportunity Fund you mentioned, the governor has traveled abroad and recently was successful in getting, about $50 million in soybeans.
He tells me that all the time.
Yes, I'm sure he does. So that's just another example of creating jobs, not only locally, not only nationally, but also internationally.
There's no question. That's always been a little battle. It's interesting, governors' trade trips, and are they worth it? I remember seeing a headline in the local paper, the Times-Dispatch, the governor spent whatever amount on a trade trip, but this governor has been very strategic, as you said. He's been after certain types of markets. And of course, soybeans is one that's been very, very successful. But they actually provide us a paper of exactly what investments they think they will get, what they're targeting. Where you get in trouble is if you just don't have specific targets. I mean, even, for example, not getting off the subject, but on research. We put money into research, but we want a research roadmap. Where is Virginia going in research? I mean, are we after nanotechnology? Are we after biotech? What are we best suited to do? And then attract those businesses. Not this shotgun approach of let's just hope business comes. Whether it be a tax credit or a foreign trip, et cetera, you need to really target those. I think the governor's done that very well. And if not, you really can cross the line between what's corporate welfare and what's going too far, and those are tough discussions upstairs.
As a matter of fact, there's a bill that would suggest an examination of tax credits in terms of cost benefits to large and small businesses that's under consideration.
Yes, and I'm going to yield to Kurt on that. I do know a little bit about it, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
I think Steve Landis has a JLARC study that actually is going to look at that. We need to look at it. I mean, I think some of them inherently do a very good job. I think some of them probably don't. And the problem is we don't have the data on some that have been on the books a long time to see what kind of return on investment that we have. You know, I was just in a 2-hour meeting on tax credits this year where we were just walking through exactly what's the return on investment, you know, and all that type of thing. We're really looking at them very, very carefully now. Whether they've gotten that scrutiny in the past is debatable. So you'll see sunsets on almost all of them today. So you can actually, a sunset piece of legislation would sunset the bill and make you basically reenact it. So you almost never see a tax credit pass anymore without that. So you're right, Woody. That's something we have to look at.
Speaking of,
Woody, we have to look at that, just like Kurt said, because a lot of the tax credits, you have to look at the entire picture of the ones that are doing good and the ones that are not doing what we really anticipated that they were going to do. So that's,
and of course, the other matter that apparently is being sunsetted is the Tim Tebow legislation relating to those who are being homeschooled participating in athletic activities.
Woody, that is something that I really am on the fence on. And the reason I say that is I am all 100% for homeschooling your children if that's what they want to do. But I do have a problem with allowing them to play sports. And here's the reason why. Is it going to stop at football or basketball? What about the FBLA? What about the Future Farmers of America or any of these clubs, you know, whether it be chemistry or what have you? I see that there could be a problem, and I know that that's going against the grain on a lot of the homeschoolers that I have, because I have a lot of them in my district. But I'm really taking a hard look at that, and right now we're supposed to vote on that, I think, today.
Third reading.
I mean, a recorded vote.
Make up your mind.
and Woody, I mean it. I really, right this moment, I do not know which way I'm going to go on that, and because I really do have some problems. I want to protect the homeschoolers, but yet I feel like that they have a choice of putting their children in public schools, and then they can turn around and still homeschool their children at home the way they feel like they should be taught. I really cannot get my arm around it. I really can't.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. There are other considerations relating to that bill, whatever additional costs may be imposed on school districts. I understand part of the bill now would require a homeschool child, their family, to bear those costs, because it will have an impact on school districts. But where do you think that bill is going to go?
I think it will pass. I'm for it, but it's not an easy bill. I think Riley articulated some of the reasons of the concerns, but some of the things that are for it, as you say, there's a cost factor built in. You can charge fees to parents. It's got a 5-year sunset to see whether it works or not. I'm a former high school baseball and bass JV coach, and I think the way it would practically work, let's face it, high school sports are a big deal. When you're a kid, you know, you can play on travel teams, you can play on rec teams, you can play in homeschool associations, but that level of play means a lot to a kid, and miss out on that opportunity. There are about 33,000, I think, homeschoolers. If you spread that out among all the districts, I don't think it will have the impact a lot of people think it will have. Frankly, some of the minor sports, you're searching for players. It depends on the school. Sports like football, a lot of times, are no-cut sports. I mean, you know, you go out, they keep the kids, so I don't see that. Basketball and baseball at a big public school are hard sports to make. So I think this theory that you'll have this inundation of people replacing other kids, I probably don't see. And I do think he's really looked at some of the, Bob Bell, who has the bill, some of the extenuating circumstances and crafted it narrow. You have to live within the attendance zone, which is huge. Because the biggest concern I would have, could you recruit outside your attendance zone? And that would be a problem. The biggest argument probably against it is, you know, a typical public school kid has to pass 5 subjects and those types of things, which a homeschooler would not. But they do have certain requirements they must meet academically. So weighing it on balance, I'm going to vote for it. I think it's a prudent measure.
Job creation and economic development is still a huge issue. There is another bill that relates to it, that is the King's Dominion law, local control against potential loss of jobs. How do you balance that?
Oh gosh, that's another one. I mean, Woody, you really hit on some hot ones here. I'm for one that want to leave it at Labor Day, and the reason for it, of course, there's a couple reasons. One is I feel like that, you know, when I was a kid coming along, I carried newspapers, I worked, and I feel like that a job for a young person is just as much a part of education as reading and writing. Maybe not as much as reading. It's like Kirk says, reading is everything to a child. If you can get them to read and read well, that's good. But I just, now, if you want to talk about year-round schools, now that's a whole different situation. When you go overseas or somewhere, most of the countries have year-round schools, where here in the United States we do not. Some locales I think do, but here in Virginia we do not have year-round schools. Also, the plants in my little city of Hopewell there, they go by seniority, and they pick vacations in January. So they know that school, it goes by seniority, so they know that school is not going to start until Labor Day. And so they can schedule their vacation right up until the end of August and still be okay. If they don't know until, say, May or June when the school year is going to start, it's very difficult for them to take vacation. That's just one thing. But I'm for leaving it like it is. And but I understand the other side. You know, it's just, that's what government is all about. You know,
Absolutely.
The democratic process, we, you know, don't always agree on everything.
Hard to look at it in a vacuum. Maybe a broader perspective is called for.
Well, Riley and I rarely disagree. I disagree on this one, and it's hard because I'm very supportive of business. But I do think localities should be able to set their own calendar. I'll give you a quick example. I've taught every kind of kid on earth, but I have 2 advanced placement classes right now. With advanced placement, which we're really pushing for kids, is set by the College Board, a national organization. They set the test between generally a window of like May 5th to May 12th. So if you think that through, if you're teaching history, a course that's chronological, or even government, very intensive courses, I basically have to give my kids the test on May the 5th, no matter where I'm at. Well, if I start after Labor Day, then I've got from May the 6th to June the 15th, basically, where I'm covering material that's, the test is over. I would love to give me a week, give me another 2 weeks, where I can really teach my kids, and I can get into SOL tests, etc. It would be a real advantage for teachers to be able to move that up. The way the bill was written, as I recall, it's up to the locality. So if Hanover, for example, doesn't want to do it, they don't have to do it, but Chesterfield could do it if they want to do it. I'd have to come down on the side of the localities on that one.
And of course, right now, there's a waiver process for school districts.
And a lot of the school districts do have waivers now in this. But see, Kurt has a good point on this, because I talk to teachers all the time, and they said that once Memorial Day is over, said you've lost the students. Said that, seriously, they said that they are ready to go on vacation, they're ready to get out. So, that point that Kurt brought up is very good, because of the fact that if they started earlier, then they would finish earlier, which means they would finish, say, by the first week of June, or the last week of May, or the first week of June, where now a lot of times schools are going on until the 15th or 16th of June.
We've got a couple of minutes left, but I did want to have you both discuss some of the issues surrounding health care, because that's obviously a core function of government, but we've got the overhang from Washington with the Affordable Care Act. There's talk about the necessity to delay the creation of health care exchanges in the Commonwealth until the U.S. Supreme Court decides the constitutionality of that act sometime in June, hopefully sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to get your views on those health care issues.
A lot of them quickly. I would be for delaying the exchange. I do think we need to see basically what happens on several fronts. What's the Supreme Court say in June? What's the election going to do? I don't think frankly, the federal government's in the position with their organization on federal health care to do a whole lot. We set certain things in place where I think we'll be fine. The governor has even said if it's necessary, he'll call a special session, so I would be for delaying that. Too many uncertainties. Riley actually chairs the Health Committee of Appropriations, so I'm going to let him talk a little bit about some of his
stuff. Well, and all of us know that health, Medicare and Medicaid, is just a driving force. I mean, $400 million. It's just grow. I mean, every year, every 2 years in the budget, it just continues to grow. It's such a need there. But I agree with Kurt. I think that what we need to do is wait for the court decision. I think that would be the first thing that we need to do, and then go from there. I don't even think that Congress knows what all is in this thing. I mean, how in the world are we going to know if they don't even know, and they're the one that put it together?
Great. We've run out of time. I'm glad you both could make it down. We appreciate the time you put into your job and also being here with us. So, Delegate Kirk Cox, thank you very much. Delegate Riley Ingram, thank you too, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.